Good morning, everyone. Today I'm blessed with the opportunity to bring forth information that is relevant to all of us. It gives us a better opportunity to come to know ourselves, and in doing that, to pay attention to the different voices we hear inside of us. So this is entitled, Getting to Know Me. Some of you, you'll find, I've heard this before, or I know this. And yet, if you pay attention, you're going to be hearing a shared perspective that comes to us with a slightly different awareness. So it might be good to conceptually divide your awareness into three parts. That won't be hard for some of us because we seem to have multiple personalities anyhow, so it'll be right at home. So, because you see, these parts, and we'll call them three, they do have their own distinctive inner voice, and they have their own agenda. So, establishing a dialogue between them, you can gain insight into your personalities, your persona, your projection, its inner workings. Sure, dance with him. It's a darling, and welcome. So in doing this, you can get a better idea of your strengths, where they come from, and also your weaknesses. And many of them are going to be karmic. You look at this and you see, okay, we are who we are, and because of what we have experienced and what we've set up previously, we are asking this time come forward so that I can address you. Knowing yourself allows you to correct these imbalances and work through the erroneous beliefs and assumptions to better align with soul. Now, I speak that distinctly because when you listen to and hear about these three parts, notice how it is that at times you'll identify with them, when in reality they're just opportunities for you to become more aware of who you are in alignment with soul. And you see, that's really the ultimate goal. Okay, higher self. Everybody's familiar with higher self. Soul and higher self are connected. The higher self is that part of you that translates soul qualities and into useful abilities. It is the wise part of you. We bring into each life what we need. And this is in order to progress along the ascension stairway. So you might have a previously acquired skill, an understanding that you already arrived at in some other lifetime. You may have a remembrance of oneness and connectedness of all life. And you may have qualities like courage, love, perseverance, selflessness, compassion. The higher self is built over many lifetimes of doing the work of awakening. It is not automatic. When one descends into density, one falls asleep. And this is to a certain extent so that you can learn lessons inside a simulated classroom. Does this remind you of a classroom? This whole planet is the classroom. The falling asleep, that just means that we do not have access to all that we are. If we did, no learning would be possible. So, we can, with this in in play, we can misinterpret circumstances and their meaning. Any unfinished lessons at the end of a lifetime become karma, learning opportunity. If we have learned the lesson, it becomes wisdom. And this is what the soul builds its uniqueness upon. This is why facing one's issues, cleaning up karma, dealing with unfinished lessons is so important. It provides a stronger, higher self for more support to be put into play. For younger souls, the initial stage of building the higher self, building its wisdom, is called conscience. Conscience is a memory of experiencing extreme guilt or shame over something they did, felt, or participated in. This will become an imprint upon death, so that in the next line this person will feel a strong guilt or shame if they try to repeat the same action. And this can lead eventually to learning the lesson, resolving the karma. So conscience is kind of like a moral compass. Enough conscience leads to an honorable, integrity-filled behavior. And thus, in facing lessons and learning the lessons, this then builds the wisdom over many lifetimes, eventually creating higher self. I know that many times I have heard and thought that higher self was an automatic, and that it just was. And in this I was caused to wonder, okay, wisdom. Are all wisdoms of the same quality? Or do we actually change our wisdom as we learn from life's experiences, as we receive input? So keep that in mind, so that you realize that moments when you are in alignment with your higher self, it can elicit an incredible intensity. I'll get it in just a minute. Intensity. There we go. So that pretty much brings us to a look at higher self. Now let's go to ego. Smile, everyone. You're on candid camera. Ego is just your operating personality. Okay? It's that part of you that interacts with the world, that plans and then judges itself and life depending on if its external and internal expectations were met or not. Ego is that part of us that feels satisfaction if it gets what it wants. Hey, and here's the interesting thing. Everyone has an ego if they are incarnated in a body. Okay. But if this ego component, it can be dense and saturated with karmic imprints. And that's the most part for everyone. Or it can be transparent and without its own agenda. And if you meet someone, you say, wow, they don't have anything going on. No pros or cons. They don't have judgment. Well, that person and its ego has aligned with higher self and is in a good connection. The ego now, remember, forms inside each lifetime. We do not bring it with us. So if that's the case, then awakening awareness. How is that fitting so far as these two parts? I want you to stop and think, instead of just me running along and you trying to go back and I'm going on. So, consider now that if it forms in each lifetime, then it also is influenced by how upbringing influences would put you in the picture, how genetic influences would put you in the picture. And also, look at it and see karmic influences are going to put you in the picture. So ego can courageously step ahead if it is allied with the higher self, or it can be incapacitated with negative beliefs when it is allied with the lower self. A little drum beat here now for lower self. The lower self, which forms anew each lifetime, is your body's awareness. It forms when we're little children. And when we experience pain, physical pain, emotional pain, mental pain, spiritual pain, it attempts to prevent that pain from occurring again. And it does so by generating beliefs that then promote certain behaviors that we perceive will prevent the pain from happening again. But the problem is, these beliefs are composed by a child's self. They will be immature, reactionary, and not based on higher truth. Any trauma we experience as a child will build a lower self strategy for life. And lend an ear. One of them, of course, is people-pleasing. And that's a fear of confrontation, hiding, a fear of action, a fear of being judged, self-erasure, fear of being seen, and self-judgment. Being controlling, a fear of emotions. Pushing ahead and overriding emotions, a fear of chaos. And, last but not least, procrastination. This is about the hope that the problem will just resolve itself. I can wait it out. Okay. So, the lower self, it can be loved and supported so that the inner hurt can be processed and let go of, instead of festering and generating more defenses. But when the lower self and the ego ally, we get just that. More defenses. So here's an interesting consideration. It is our job to heal the lower self inside each lifetime. So many times I have found myself saying, I will be so damn glad when I am out of this body, out of this time, so I can get away from this lower self that drives me crazy. Thank God I'm still alive. I've got a healthy body. I've got time. And I'm devoting that time to do just that. Heal my lower self so that there is more harmony in my everyday living. So we do this by lovingly parenting ourselves. The higher self-wisdom becomes the parent to the lower self-fears. So you'll notice if you're involved in trying to accomplish this, that your discernment of your feelings and emotions is essential to be able to understand if what you are experiencing is a true higher self guidance in harmony with your soul, or if it's some ego's fear, anxiety, or trying to manipulate you into what it wants. The lower self often masquerades as intuition. So when you hear this voice and you say, "Oh my God, that must be my higher self," this is where it's really important for you to be honest with yourself, because you see, it really it breaks down to the basics, and the basics are: is it fear-based or is it love-based? That's it. It's that simple. So in that, you have to be honest with yourself and say, am I hearing what I want to hear? Or am I finding that my lower self is just wanting me to do what it wants me to do? And you see, you can always tell, because if it's fear-based, it'll be, don't do that. You're gonna regret it. What if something happens? You'll get a feel for it by the feeling that it feels like inside you. And then, if it's genuine intuition that's coming from the higher self, it will always be love-based. It will always be gentle. It will always guide you with kindness and support. So this is just simply a presentation of the basics of who we are. But I also want you to realize that who we are is the awakening awareness that has the capacity to discern who's who in the zoo inside of us and make the right choice so far as what you want to do. Yes, there'll be the monkey, no doubt about it. Yes, so did everybody get a feel for this? Yes? Yes? Okay, good. Thank you very much.